And I've got to say, there's something that feels weird every time I do it. Anytime I take those seeds out, especially today since it was 27 degrees and the wind was howling. I get out there, and normally I'm used to babying my seeds. I'm used to keeping them in the greenhouse or growing them inside under grow lights. So it's a little weird sometimes when I take the seeds out there for winter sowing. All right, so I ended up putting them kind of next to my greenhouse here. Hey there, YouTube gardeners. Today we're going to talk about winter sowing. I talked about cold stratification in one of my other seed videos, but there is a need sometimes for seeds to go through a cold period. Some seeds even need to go through a cold period, a warm period, and then another cold period before warming up one final time, and then germinating and growing from there. Seeds can be complicated, but the good thing is Mother Nature's figured it out. These seeds know what they're doing. The problem is when we get involved. Us as gardeners, we like to be impatient about things sometimes. We like to kind of take control over things sometimes when it comes to seeds and try to do what we can to interfere. But once you relax a little bit and kind of work with nature or mimic what nature's doing, then it starts to be a little more effective. It starts to be a little bit better as far as how things go for you. So what we're going to do today, as you can see here, I've got quite a handful of things here. First of all, I've got the different seeds. Each one of these seeds are seeds that do better with a period of cold stratification. I have gotten most of these to grow, with the exception of globe mallow, and the blue delphinium. I've gotten the rest of these to grow without stratification, though every one of them have grown better, and I've had better seed germination rates when I have cold stratified these. So we're going to stick with cold stratifying these in a way that's doing winter sowing. So winter sowing, back to what I was saying, winter sowing is where you plant seeds in the winter, just like it sounds, imagine that. But we're going to do it in a way that we are interfering a little bit, doing our part to kind of maybe work with Mother Nature, help it along a little bit, and take away some of the waiting time for us. So what we've got here, as you can see, I have a milk jug cut most of the way around, and it's about 3 or 4 inches tall. And I've got that cut on purpose like this because I'm going to fill it with soil after we melt some holes through the bottom, make some drainage holes. And then I'm going to put the soil in there, and I'm just going to use potting soil. And then I'm going to plant the seeds these seeds right here that need cold stratification. I'm going to put this back on and leave the cap off like that, and because that's going to be open for ventilation on the sunny days. I'm going to use a piece of tape to kind of help keep this lid closed. This accomplishes a few things. It keeps any birds or critters from eating your seeds while they're sitting out there all winter. Since it's sheltered, it keeps the seeds from blowing away or getting splattered away by heavy rains or snow. And in the spring, when it starts to warm up, this acts as a built-in greenhouse. So we'll get a little bit of a jump start on the season. And we'll have a little bit better time doing the hardening off process before we stick them in the ground. They'll be a little bit farther along, and hopefully we'll have some good success. So there's this container. This is a pretty sturdy takeout container that I saved. It's got built-in vent holes that I'll probably pop open a little bit more. And then these are like strawberry and blueberry containers that I've saved. So I want to tell you the plants I have. I have larkspur, a delphinium, world milkweed, globe mallow, verbascum, and foxtail lily, and prairie smoke. Now prairie smoke, I've tried mimicking cold stratification with this one, and the foxtail lily, and also the delphinium. I've tried mimicking cold stratification by putting them in the fridge and haven't had any luck. So I don't know if I've got some seeds that aren't viable, or if they just didn't have enough time in the refrigerator, or maybe it just ain't cold enough. Maybe they need a freeze thaw cycle instead of a cold thaw cycle, and we'll find out. So I'm going to do all of these seeds in these different containers, and I have one more showy milkweed on the way in the mail. I just got confirmation it should be here hopefully tomorrow, so I'll go ahead and get its container ready. And So for now, I'm going to go over how I like to cut these. As you can see, I leave about 2 inches back here on the handle side. It's kind of tough sometimes to get a good straight cut around. So this one I just did freehand. I used a marker and tried to keep it level as I could, and worked out pretty well. But a trick I do like to do is slipping a rubber band over it at about where you want to cut, because you can adjust the rubber band to the height that you want and get that pretty even the whole way around, and then use your marker to mark where you're going to be cutting. Okay, I'll mark that, then I get a good blade, a nice sharp blade, and I'd be very careful. Careful never to cut towards your hand or cut towards you. So if you're cutting, I like to push away. And this is a pretty new blade. It's got all right, again, I'm going to stop with leaving about 2 inches to spare. I'm trying to be soft here. Go a little bit more. Now that makes it basically a built-in hinge. See, this one's still wet from washing it out. This must be a pretty recent one. And then that's how I cut them. These, no cutting necessary, obviously. Built-in drainage holes, built-in vent holes. This one needs some drainage holes. So what I like to do with those is get a soldering iron, and it's an old junky soldering iron that I've had for probably 20 years. And that's what I use to melt holes through the bottom. But some people will use sharp blades to cut out some spots. I just like how clean it is using the soldering iron. However, I don't want to use the soldering iron inside to do the melting, because it's really smoky and it's not fun. So I'm not going to set up. I've showed other videos how I just use the soldering iron to just, once the tip is hot, I poke through and I do it. It's depending on how big the container is that I'm using, that helps me determine how many drainage holes I want to put in it. So I'm going to stop recording for a minute. I'm going to go poke some holes in these and finish cutting the rest of those, and then fill them up with some dirt, with some topsoil, and then I'll come back and we'll go from there. All right, so I didn't bring all of them back inside because I didn't want to be transporting them all the way back downstairs and here just to go back upstairs to stick them outside. So what I'm going to do, I brought one of each type, and I'll show you how I like to have them prepped and ready and plant them. So you want to have something that's about 2 to 3 inches deep of soil at the minimum. And I like the milk jugs the best because there's the most room for growth. You can see this one has maybe 1.5 inches above the soil. This one maybe has 1 inch. So not ideal. You have to be on it as far as watching this one, because that one's gonna quickly start touching the top of the container there. One thing I didn't mention yet is there's a few options as far as labeling. So I'm just going to spread these out. This is my blue delphinium. Yes, that's what I called it, because it's a seed that I collected that I'm not sure is going to come back true to the color. So I'm going to see what it is. I took it from a blue delphinium that I bought last year. And so I need to write what I've got here. And another trick is you can write it on the bottom. And this is a UV resistant marker. So hopefully the sun won't make it fade at all, but just to be safe, you can write it on the bottom. And then same thing with these. I'm going to write it on the top, and I'm not going to worry about the bottom, because what I like to do, I write it on the top where I can see it, and then I line all of the jugs and cartons up, and then I take a photo of them so I can see their names, and I never change the order that they're in. And if it ever happens that the marker gets washed off or faded or whatever, I can go back to that photo and look at where it was at in that photo and know what it is and rewrite it, or whatever. If I'm potting up at that time, I can take care of it then. I'm going to go ahead and plant these. This first one is larkspur that I got from a friend of mine. She gives me tons of seeds and tons of flowers. She's a really good gardener. Just like most good gardeners, they have plenty of plants and seeds to give away as soon as they're established. So these are pretty fine seeds. prefer to do little furrows in these containers. And I put extra seeds because it's easier to thin them out later than it is to add them later, if you know what I mean. You can't really add them later at all. And vary that up. This potting soil that I'm using happens to be damp already. Definitely don't want this to get waterlogged at all, so I'm not going to bother watering it to water these in, other than with maybe a little squirt from a chemistry cleaning bottle. And that's that for that. I did 2 rows with quite a few. Depending on how many you want, I could do a couple containers of the same seeds. That one's good there. In this container, I got tons of room. I'm actually going to change what plant. I didn't mean to get so messy here. I don't need that many of the world milkweed, blue delphinium, for this big one. These seeds, I'm actually just going to rough up the surface a little bit. Show you another way I like to do it. That one I did the furrows. This one I just like to sprinkle them all over. When these germinate in any of these, I'll let them grow till they're got a little bit of a root system, but you don't want the roots to get tangled with the plants that they're next to. You let them go a little bit, but then you transplant them and pot them up into bigger pots before they get too big. Now I'm way over seeding this just because I want to guarantee success, because if it turns true to color from the parent plant that I got the seeds from, it's an amazing blue and purple, true blue. Nothing drives me more crazy than when the seed packets say true blue, or the plant description says a true blue, and then you get it and it is anything but true blue. It's a violet or a purple. When you're talking true blue, I want like the color of this ring here. That's true blue to me. And this delphinium plant that I took the seeds from is that blue. It's just electric, and it's got a purple veins with it. Not veins, but it's kind of tie-dye looking. I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, otherwise I'd share it with you, but it is a true blue and I love it. So I would love to have 1,000 of those, but I'm not going to do too many until I find out if they even grow true to color. Sometimes, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, when you take seeds from a plant, they could have been cross-pollinated with another plant of the same species, and then you might not get the same color or the same fruit or the same type of vegetable off of it, because it could have been cross-pollinated with something. It's not until you get a hybridized plant that's gone through so many years of not being crossbred to where the seed becomes stable that you can make sure you get true to true to the color, or true to the parent plant, however you want to say it. This one I think I'll do, yeah, like I said, actually the prairie smoke I'm going to leave for one of these containers. And glow mellow, what I'm going to do in here. And I almost made a mistake there. You want to make sure you leave these until you label the plant so you know what's what. I do not have that many seeds of this. I'm crossing my fingers that I will have some luck. Since I have so few seeds, I'm actually just going to poke these in. Some of them are getting 2 per hole, 2 dibble, and that's it. Go ahead and cover those up. Seeds this side, you typically bury 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. It's only the really fine seeds that I really stress about making sure I don't bury them too deep, or if it's a seed that I know needs light to germinate, then you don't want to bury them at all. But I have done all of these seeds a few times, and these were between 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. Same with these, and I think these ones were actually closer to 1/4 of an inch. So pretty close. got all those. I'm going to take these upstairs. I'm going to go ahead and I've already got soil in the rest of the containers that I need at this point, and I will plant the rest of the seeds in them. I'm not going to forget to label these before I leave this room though, and I'll give you an update once I've got them outside. I'll show you where I'm putting them. Okay, there's one important thing I failed to mention. I like this silver tape that they use for the ductwork in your house, and to seal up the duct vents as they are building them. And I do not like duct tape. I have a personal hatred for duct tape that is for a different video. But as you can see, I put some of the silver tape on this milk jug. Milk jug ones in particular don't have any way of keeping their the lid half of it latched down, so to speak. So in order to keep it from blowing open and then having the seeds get blown away or critters getting in there to eat them, I put some tape on there. I know people who do use duct tape, so I'm not going to recommend it. All right, so I ended up putting them kind of next to my greenhouse here, just so they're a little bit sheltered from the wind. Not going to have to be battling getting blown away or anything like that. So they're sheltered a little bit, and they're away from the drip line, so there won't be any water dripping directly on them. And hopefully they won't get too buried too often with snow drifts or anything like that. But I got to do my close-up pictures so I know where they're at in the line in case the marker rubs off. And then I'll add to this with a couple others, but essentially that's it. One more thing I was going to mention is just want to keep them damp at the most, kind of the dry side of damp. If they completely dry out, it's not going to be the end of the world. It's just trying to, again, mimic Mother Nature. There'll be stages, or periods I should say, of moisture and periods of dryness. And then when it comes time for spring, especially here, we might have a dry year, might have a wet year, but I'll do my best to mimic Mother Nature and do a part 2 to this video in the spring when things are growing. Wow, it was way too cold for me to be out there any longer. The wind was howling. I don't know if you could hear it in the speakers, but I did not want to stand out there any longer. I could hardly think. My cheeks are now frozen, so I'm having troubles talking, and I was only out there for what, 2 minutes? Plus the few minutes it took me to take the stuff out there. At any rate, thanks for watching, and I hope you liked what you saw here today. Again, I'll do a follow-up. Please like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I'd love to continue making more content. I have a whole list of ideas that I want to put out there, but I got to make sure it's working for me and my family as well. So thank you. I just got back downstairs and I was cleaning things up, and there's something I've got to say. There's something that feels weird every time I do it. Anytime I take those seeds out, especially today since it was 27 degrees and the wind was howling. I get out there, and normally I'm used to babying my seeds. I'm more used to keeping them in the greenhouse or growing them inside under grow lights. So it's a little weird sometimes when I take the seeds out there for winter sowing. Kind of like tough love is what it feels like. You walk them out there, I set them down in the snow, and I know they're going to be frozen within an hour, frozen solid. All of the dirt and the moisture in the dirt is going to be frozen. Anyway, it's just a little bit weird, but that's okay. That's the way Mother Nature handles it. That's Mother Nature's way of being able to break the seed down and allow it to get the water in the springtime when it wants to germinate.